More and more people are moving to cities, and that's going to affect almost every industry.
We are very cautious and very aware to make a conscious effort to work with the ecosystem.
What can the average person do to take action now? Not one person can change the world, but if we all do a little something different, it might help.
Being open to embracing innovation.
Know that you can make a difference. Absolutely. There's no excuse not to even do a little bit.
Let's go check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Going Green. Really excited to talk to our guest today. He's got a really strong background in solar and clean technology, and he's doing some amazing things. Joining us from Liverpool is David Hunt, the CEO and founder of Hyperion Executive Search. David, thanks so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Good to be with you.
Yeah, so let's just dive right into it. Tell us a little bit about your background in the clean tech solar space.
Sure, yeah. So very briefly, I used to be a headhunter in a lot of different technologies, IT, telecoms, building services, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, all this kind of not very interesting stuff. And I did that for many years. And just by coincidence, in 2007, a friend of mine said, "Hey, what do you know about solar panels? I'm thinking of installing some solar panels." I said, I know nothing, but it sounds interesting. Let me go find out. So I did some research into what was possible with solar. This is 2007, so the costs were much higher and the availability was much lower. But it seemed to me like a really good opportunity. So what we actually did was created a business which installed solar panels, primarily for the domestic and residential market, and then evolved into sort of larger projects in the commercial sector. And it just blew my mind that you could have so much impact yourself on the way that you lived, the way you generated power, the way that you impacted the planet on a personal level. And obviously the fact that we could roll that into a business was really cool. So we scaled that from zero, well, for two of us, up to 50 people. And we had a real blast. And but ultimately, I love people. So I decided to form a company which did headhunting and executive search purely for the renewable and clean tech sector. And for the last 6 years, we're doing that globally.
Wow. What was the transition from the solar to the headhunting company?
Yeah, as I say, because I started with headhunting, I always had an affinity for people and I knew that business very well. And as much as I loved the technology in solar, and we installed some amazing projects, and I learned an awful lot around how solar works and small wind and heat pumps and other technologies. But ultimately, I'm a people person. So I exited the previous business on good terms. We've done really well, and set up Hyperion from scratch again, just me and a laptop. And now it's really cool. We're working with clients from California to Northeast US, from Houston, Austin, Texas, right the way around Europe and Scandinavia, and helping them to bring their technologies to market, helping them to build their teams, of course, but more importantly, how to bring to the world technologies which we can all use to make an impact.
Wow, what's like one story that gets you really excited of kind of a success story with the business you've worked with?
In terms of the business we work with, it's pretty cool. As you probably will know, there's an awful lot of money and investment now going into clean technologies. And one of the big funds is called Breakthrough Energy Ventures, which is funded by Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and all these guys that have obviously got lots of money and putting it into a fund called Breakthrough Energy Ventures. And we're working with three of their businesses now, one based in New York, one based in Boston, and one based down in Houston, which are bringing long-term, long-duration energy storage to the world. So if we're going to have much more solar and much more renewables, we need to be able to store that clearly, because wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine. So energy storage is a really critical part of the journey. And batteries are really cool for storing for a number of hours. But when you start having to store for weeks, that's a different proposition. And these companies are doing some amazing stuff, and it's really cool to be working with them.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Man, that's super exciting. I kind of am like lost for words that you get the opportunity to work with them. What are some trends that you're seeing? Because you were working in the solar space back in 2007, right? And that was, just in my experience, you're a little bit older than me, but in the past, 15, 20 years, there's sort of been this trend of, like you said, people really investing and pushing clean technology, and the average consumer, having it sort of be more acceptable in their day-to-day lives. And the more money people spend, the more investments that come in, obviously the technology gets better. What was it like? I mean, just being in that space back in 2007, I'm sure the technology, even just in the solar industry, is like night and day from how much, more efficient and better it's gotten. So what are some trends that you've sort of noticed from 2007 to right now?
Yeah, certainly. I think, as you said, it's public awareness and acceptance. Well, even when I told my friends I was starting a solar business in 2007, they laughed at me and said, "What are you talking? Solar's never going to work in the UK. You never have any sunshine." And but of course, they were wrong. It does work here. It works even better where you are. But yeah, so I think that's the real big evolution. Is that one of them, of course, is cost has gone down, and you touched on it there. The more people are involved, the more people buy, the more investment comes in, the more costs come down, and more accessible it is to more people. But really now, if you look at many countries around the world, the US, the UK, in some days in the summer, not every day, but some days in the summer in the UK, we're powered entirely, the whole country, on renewables. No coal, no gas, no nuclear. And that's a massive change in just 12 years.
That's amazing. I mean, hopefully, I never thought I'd see the day where an entire country would be able to be completely powered on renewable energy. And here we are, not too far into the distance. I'm sure it'll be, a lot more common. If you can you share some of the basic technology that the companies you're working with are creating to store that long-term energy?
Sure, no, absolutely. So what most people are aware of is clearly batteries, the same that we would have in our laptop and our iPhone and everything else. And that technology has really evolved enormously. And that's really helping electric vehicles, which is perhaps something else we'll touch on, which is another big trend. But batteries are good for storing large amounts of energy for maybe 3-4 hours. So that's really cool if it's sunny now and you can store that energy and then just displace that tonight when the sun's gone down. But that doesn't help early hours or tomorrow morning. So we need to be able to store energy for a longer period of time. And batteries at this moment in time, probably 4 to 5 hours is their maximum. So companies are doing some really strange. So QuickNet, which is a company we're working with, which is based out of Houston. So they're using traditional oil and gas technology, drilling technology, to create almost pumped hydro. So they're pumping water down at pressure into rocks at a very high pressure and storing it there. And once the electricity is needed, you obviously through a turbine. And when the energy is needed, they reverse that cycle. So the water comes back up, spins the turbines, the electricity is created. So, but they can store huge amounts of energy underground for quite long periods of time.
Wow.
So that's a pretty, yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I think that's the really cool thing is when you were using, a lot of the technology is new and it's kind of quite high tech, but so much is being done with traditional technologies and traditional methods to enable renewables. And pumping water into a well is, it's old school, but it works and it's been used for a new application.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing is you don't have to always reinvent the wheel. Sometimes if you can apply that new technology to it, you're good to go. One thing with going green we like to really kind of focus on is not just, saving the world and saving the planet. That's obviously great, but, we kind of mentioned this money talks and when there's millions and billions of dollars being invested into these new businesses and people spending millions and billions of dollars, it catches the eyes of, maybe the naysayers or the people who never really kind of believed in it before. And I think, entrepreneurs in this space are really kind of pushing that it proves that, they're bringing it to market. They're able to make money. They're able to amass fortunes. There's some of the richest people in the entire world are entrepreneurs in the clean tech space. How has your kind of life been driven by being an entrepreneur? I mean, your friend asked you about solar and then next thing you know, you're running a solar business with 50 people. How did you sort of get that entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, people often, and I did, wanted to create something. I had my previous business in headhunting, and you want to take control of your destiny to some extent. And I think what's really important, going back to when we first started, solar was a very cottage industry. It really was for the hippies, if you want to put it in those terms. It was for people it was very expensive, but if people were reasonably well off and were really minded to be better citizens of the planet, they would get engaged. But for the majority of people, it made no sense financially, and it wasn't that attractive. And that's changed significantly because of entrepreneurs and because of everything that they've pushed forward. But I think the important thing to recognize, it's not mutually exclusive. You can be wealthy, you can do very well for yourself and do well for society and the planet at the same time. These things are not mutually exclusive. And I think that's really important. And I think that's happened in the last, as I say, 10 years, that people have recognized, hey, I can create a solid business, do well for myself and my family, create jobs, but at the same time, I don't have to be doing something which is a negative impact on the planet. I can do something which is a positive impact on the planet. And that's the world we live in, which is every day you wake up and I'm working with companies who are trying to do good for themselves and also for society and the environment as a whole.
I love it. It's actually crazy you say that because I talk with a lot of business owners, a lot of friends, a lot of family, and really, a lot of times when you have conversations, it's about your job, making money. It's also about sort of what your goals are in life. And I've talked to so many people of such varying levels of success, millionaires, CEOs, down to my friends and family. And oftentimes people will be like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and a lot of people, really everyone's searching for that why. Like, I want to do something that's bigger than myself. But at the same time, just in society, you obviously need to make money. You need to provide for yourself. You need to put a roof over your head. And I'm a huge, firm believer that it's possible to, make money, live comfortably, start a successful business, provide for your friends, your family, your employees, while also having a positive impact on the world. And it's crazy you say that because all day yesterday, I write articles for goinggreenshow.com. We write and share articles, and I've been putting a lot of effort into this article exactly about that, how you can make money and even be rich and successful, but also, give back to the earth and the planet and, provide for others. So it's funny you mentioned that. I think a lot of people I talk to when they say, man, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, start a business. Honestly, it's one of the biggest challenges, but also it's one of the most rewarding things you can do. And with the power of the internet today, with social media, with the ability to, email and connect with people all over the world on your phone. Also with the fact that there's an endless amount of resources, YouTube videos, articles, books. It's probably the easiest time to ever start a business, in my opinion. You can, be self-taught. You don't need to go to college to start a business. And actually, maybe that's something you could kind of touch on in terms of sort of the headhunting. What trends and what advice would you give to someone who's maybe 16, 17, wants to get into the clean tech space, doesn't know exactly what they want to do, but know they want to, have a fulfilling career, get paid well, but also give back? Like, do you have any advice or tips for someone in that headspace?
Sure. I mean, for younger people, it's perhaps a little bit easier because one of the big trends in both mobility and in energy is digitalization. Grids are becoming digital, travel's becoming around platforms. So younger people tend to be more digitally native. So certainly those computer skills, computer science, engineering, technical kinds of qualifications, if you're at that stage where you're looking at college or looking at university beyond that, I'd certainly focus on engineering, science, physics, computer sciences, because they're the skills and of the future. I think some of the challenges come from people who are sort of already in their careers, because so many people want to make the change. We have a lot of people who approach us from oil and gas and traditional, automotive sectors, what we refer to as the sunset industries, those that are going on the wane, and they come to us and say, I want to be able to go home to tell my grandchildren I'm doing something good with with my day. I don't want to be telling them I'm selling cigarettes or I'm burning oil or these things. So there's a lot of people who want to transition into the clean tech sector, and there's a lot of advice, and I've written a few blogs on trying to help people to do that. But certainly focus on your digital skills and learn as much as you can. You hit the nail on the head there. There's so much information available. There are so many channels, YouTube channels. Yours clearly is going to be a great place to start. There's one called Fully Charged I contribute to, which is, again, just geared at demonstrating to the world a whole range of different technologies that are available at a really reasonably high level. So it's not super technical. You don't need to be a physicist to jump in. You just need to be able to learn and absorb stuff. So going back to your point, I'd say that's what you need to do. Do some research, look around, see what floats your boat. What's most interesting to you? Is it solar? Is it wind? Is it heat pumps? Is it batteries? Is it vehicles? That's whatever most excites you. Let's see if there's an opportunity to use your skills in that area.
Awesome. That's super cool. It's exciting to hear that people who are in sort of, as you said, the sunset industries, willing to, sort of open up and say, I want to make a change. I think there's some people out there who are kind of stuck in their ways, and a little bit old school. And it's like, no, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with going out and educating yourself. There's a lot of people who want you to come help and encourage you to, make that change. What's cool, I think with your company is that you have your hand in all these different industries in the clean tech space. What are you kind of most excited about in the future, and what industries within the clean tech area do you sort of see emerging in the future?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. The trends of digitalization are big, but the two big things are energy storage, because we know that more renewables, we need to be able to store that and be able to use it overnight and into week and into seasonal. So energy storage is really interesting. And of course, nobody can fail to see the massive changes in mobility. We now have Tesla, who are the most valuable car company in the world that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. They're knocking Toyota and BMW and everybody out of the park because they've made this transition. But it's not just about electric vehicles, although that's going to be a massive change. Particularly in cities, it's around how do we get about. We've all seen scooters. We work with a number of companies that provide apps, and you can pay almost like your telephone or your cell phone. You can pay a monthly fee, and what you get for that is you can get on any bus, any scooter, any bike, any taxi, any train. So mobility is changing. People don't own cars, and that's a big trend actually, because people don't buy music. We don't buy CDs anymore. We download. We don't watch films. We don't buy films over there. We Netflix. So there's this whole mentality around access to, but not ownership. And I think that will happen in vehicles as well. It already is starting to happen in various places in the world. Even for die-hard car enthusiasts like me, and I've always been a petrol head, now an electric head, but but you can see that why would you have a car, particularly in a city, when you can travel so much more easily via a multitude of different transport methods, depending whether it's sunny or rainy or hot or cold. You can just take different paths, and that's going to be a real big trend, mobility.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because my background's more television, film, media industry, and I love it because it's always changing. The media industry, like you just said, you used to watch TV, used to buy DVDs or VHS. Now everything's streaming. Similar to the clean tech industry, billion-dollar companies have emerged. I don't want to say overnight, because they've been putting in years of work, but Netflix, Amazon Prime has totally changed the way we consume media. And when you have an industry that's changing like that, there's opportunity to disrupt it for companies to emerge and dominate the market share. So one thing I'm really interested in is kind of what you mentioned, the sustainability of everything. The mobility. It's not just, oh, we're going to go to electric cars. It's how we restructure and build cities so that the charging stations are available, or the electric buses and scooters, so people don't have to own a car, like you said. And if people aren't owning cars, and it just changes everything. It's really exciting. If you could give one piece of advice just to the average person, what could they do to kind of make a little bit of a difference, get involved? What would you say to do?
I think the first thing is not hit the nail on the head. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to be, go from being, I don't know, a huge carnivore to a vegan. There are steps that you can take. Anything that you do is an improvement. So, just quantify what's good, just to actually explore your life and realize what are the bits of negative impact. Do I drive too much? Do I take too many flights? Do I eat too much red meat? There's a lot of, a lot of advice, a lot of information as to what are big negative impacts on the world and what are good. But don't be pushed to that you have to go all in or nothing. Everything's incremental. If everybody makes a little bit of a difference, it's better than a few people making all of this sort of difference. But look at how you consume your energy. Look at where you buy your energy. Can you afford to engage in whether it's solar or some other technology, or can you just choose a better supplier?
You hit the nail on the head right there. That's what it's all about. Is if everyone just makes those little changes, it goes a long way. David, how can people, follow your story, read your blogs, get in touch with you if they have any questions for you?
Sure, no, happy if they reach out. So I have a website, which is davidhunt.co, which is my main website. I also have the Leaders in Cleantech podcast, which is CEO stories within Cleantech, and that's at leadersincleantech.com.
Awesome. Super cool having you on. We really just scratched the surface, but I want to be mindful of your time. Would love to have you on again in the future and dive a little bit deeper. I know it's Friday, and you're a couple hours ahead of me over there. So enjoy your weekend, and thank you again for coming on the show today.
No, it's a privilege. And again, I think it's just the real cool thing that you're doing is sharing the stories. And letting people know that you can do things and make a difference in the impact. As I said, it doesn't have to be everything, but everybody does something, and learn from people like yourself and others who are sharing the stories. Get involved and do something, make an impact. You feel better for it.
Yeah, there you go. Make an impact, get paid a little bit. Everybody's happy. There you
Everybody's happy. Winner.
Awesome.
Listen,
Thank you
great
again,
to be
David.
with you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And thanks again for tuning into another episode of Going Green. Be sure to check out David, and we will see you next week on another episode. Thank you very much.